my confirmation class one year, 14-year-olds. Skip ahead about 10 years, and I have a young man from my class who I taught that to. His daughter is born without nostrils. Medical science, phenomenal. Rebuilt those nostrils. Made them so that she could breathe out of them. Rebuilt the inside of her mouth so she could eat. She's now absolutely like all other kids, breathing and eating and doing well. But before all the surgeries, but right after the birth, when her parents found that out, and I went to visit them in the hospital, the young man who had been my student said to me, "Rabbi, I remembered what you said about the blessing, about the openings in your body." And he said, "Boy, it really hit us today how important that blessing is. You don't take anything for granted." So again, we have fun. You're supposed to have one boy and one girl and keep having sex until you have one of each. And once you have one of each, you can still have fun, as long as you treat each other in sex with dignity. Life after death. This one, which we'll talk about much more in the future. The concept in Judaism here is, this is the world we know. This is the world where we see the issues and the problems and the repairs that need to be made. This is the one where we see needs fixing. And so our emphasis and our perspective is on this world. We don't worry a whole lot about the world to come. We're not worried about salvation in the world to come as long as we take care of fixing this world. And therefore, we believe that deed is more important than belief. We believe that we must go and fix this world and make it better. At the same time, we believe that there's more to life than just this life. So while we believe there is an afterlife and aren't exactly sure exactly what it's like, though as I said, there are 10 or 11 different possible ways of understanding it, which we'll talk about later in some of these sessions, even though we know all of that, bottom line is we still take care of this world, and in the world to come, it'll take care of itself. And what we do in this world in no way gives us reward or punishment for the world to come. We take care of this world and fix what's wrong and broken and the injustices because it's the right thing to do. And I didn't give you all a syllabus. I need to do that. Progressive revelation, number 11. We need to understand that we have a different view of progressive revelation. The concept of progressive revelation works this way. God came to Abraham, made a covenant, and revealed his word. We're going to say God is he. We don't know if God has any gender at all, but just for our purposes of talking, it just makes it easier. Maybe a she, maybe an it, who knows? And we're going to talk about God too. So when we get to prayer, that's going to be a big deal. But the idea is that God revealed his truth to Abraham. Christianity believes that Jesus came along and that God didn't reveal it all to Abraham. And therefore, in this progressive revelation, the New Testament, that which God didn't give to the Jews, has given to the Christians who have therefore superseded Jews. Along comes Islam, and they jump on the progressive revelation train. And they said, God didn't give it all to the Jews, and didn't even give it all to the Christians. But the Muslims got the ultimate word from their teacher. And this is sort of a dangerous game. And it's what I referred to at the very beginning of the session. It's a dangerous game because it's based upon mine's better than yours. So we believe that we have revelation from God in all different forms. As long as it's moral, it's good. Evolution of Judaism. And this goes for every religion. Religions change. I have people who come here to tour the temple. And they want to see the building, they want to see the sanctuary, and then they want to see the sacrifice room. Well, if you read the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament, the way we worship is we bring animals and grains and wine libations, and there's a barbecue in the middle of the pulpit, and we offer them up, and a priest comes, and the smoke rises. Problem is, there are no priests in Judaism today. So, that whole story in the Bible about how we worship has nothing to do with who we are as Jews today. Now, when they ask for the sacrifice room, I take them to the business office. That's where people write their checks and give their sacrifices. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, in 70 CE, the Common Era, or 0 essentially is Common Era. In 70 CE, the temple was destroyed. There was no place for priests to operate. There was no place for them to bring sacrifices. So the priesthood disappeared. Now, the rabbis who made that possible had a hand in it. There's a lot of politics here. But the bottom line is, Judaism went through a 180-degree transformation. No more sacrifices, instead prayer. No more temple in Jerusalem, instead synagogues everywhere. No more priests, instead rabbis. Where do rabbis come from? There's no rabbis mentioned in the Bible. None, 0. I'll tell you, thin air. But that's how religions evolve. As different times come along, religion has to meet what is happening. Let me give you what was happening in that first century CE from the time of Jesus up until the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem very quickly. Prior to that time, more and more Jews were living, as the population grew in Israel, outside of Jerusalem, in the suburbs, way out in the suburbs. They couldn't get in. Not only that, you have others who were massing themselves in the city, and they therefore no longer had livestock. So how are you going to bring a bullock to offer as a sacrifice when you ain't raising bullocks anymore? The answer, you go to the sacrifice store, where you buy yourself a bullock so that you can go and offer it. Big problem though. The guys running the bullock store knew there was a shortage of bullocks for people because they lived in the city now and now went out in the country. So what do you think they did with the price? They jacked it up. So if you got the jacked up price and you can't afford it, another group of Jewish ritual leaders come up with a whole different idea, which is you don't offer sacrifices, you don't have to buy those at high inflated prices. You bring the sacrifice of your heart, which is prayer. And you don't have to go to the temple. Just come to your local synagogue, and we will teach you. We, the rabbis, will teach you. So once again, economics, geography, all environment, all these things reshape who we are and who we have become. And who we are today is very different from mainstream Judaism 200 years ago, 100 years ago. And we're still going through changes, and there's still revolutions in our congregation. We here today are more traditional in terms of Hebrew than when I came here 25 years ago in '86. Totally different congregation, totally different worship. If you had come in '86 to a service that we have today, you would think you had been dropped in a Hasidic steeple in Poland in the 1700s, because we're that much more traditional, using more Hebrew, more tunes. We have a cantor. I wear a yarmulke and a talit, which I never used to do. Why? Because Judaism is ever evolving. Okay, any questions about any of that? Yes?
Well, I think in town here I see synagogues that are called temples.
Okay.
What is that?
Okay. Here's what's happened.
What was the question?
It all started with the temple in Jerusalem. Then you had this revolution, and the rabbis came in, and they became the Orthodox Jews, and they therefore created the synagogue. So you didn't go to the temple, you went to the synagogue, the local areas. In the early 1800s in Germany, Jews who had been Orthodox but were suddenly let out of the ghetto wanted to be more involved in the non-Jewish world. Plus, they had to work on Saturday, the Industrial Revolution, so they began to evolve again in Judaism. They said, we are not like the Orthodox. We are prophetic Jews, more like when the prophets used to preach when there was a temple in Jerusalem. So they then take the symbol and the language of the temple from the ancient times and use that to describe Reform congregations and places of worship. So, most Reformed Jews would generally talk about themselves as a temple because of that revolution in the early 1800s, while most Orthodox and conservative Jews would call it a synagogue. Now, most of those Orthodox Jews came from Eastern Europe. Some from Western, but mostly Eastern. They tended to call theirs not just a synagogue, but a shul, which means a school. So you'll hear Orthodox Jews talk about their synagogue as a shul. Conservative Jews talk about their synagogue as a synagogue. Reformed Jews talk about their place of worship as either a temple or a synagogue. And a lot of it just has to do with the internal politics. Okay, gosh, I'm out of time here. We're going to give you a break, but I'd like everyone who's converting or even thinks they might be interested to stay so I can go over all that with you quickly. Is this generally what you were looking for here? I forgot to hand this out. This is the entire syllabus. Let's take half. Do you mind passing this out? And then, how are you at handing things out? Okay. This is front and back, and it will show you exactly what we're doing and the reading assignments. Now, for those of you who are not converting, you don't have to read your reading assignments. I think it's a great idea, because you'll have a better idea, and a lot of what we'll talk about will be framed in this. But I just wanted to mention that too. And take a look at this and see if there's anything. Again, is this not meeting anyone's expectations? Be honest. Is this okay? Is this what you think?
Yes.
Okay. So take a look at, did everyone get one? Did you get one?
It's coming.
They're coming? Okay. Okay. It's front and back. One says page 1 of 2, one says page 2 of 2. So you can see what it is. You can get a lot of these books online at Amazon. Used, thank you, for very little. Also, you can get them in all the bookstores. And they're not terribly expensive. And Judaism for Dummies sounds weird, but it's a great basic book. And I've asked class after class after class, and they like it. They do a good job with it. Okay. I'm going to let you then, those of you who are not, you're just here out of interest, you just want to learn about Judaism, go take a break. If you want to get water or coffee, please feel free to. Those who are converting, if you'll come on up this way, Rabbi Simon, this is Rabbi Joel Simon. He's my colleague here, and we're co-teaching this. I teach from 6:30 to 7:30 and go to bed. Then Rabbi Simon is the guy who's younger and stays up late. Do you want to say a few words to them just by welcoming in the first place?
Well, my feelings will never be hurt if anyone leaves before I start teaching. But no, I'm really looking forward to this. This is always one of my favorite parts of what I do. And I was able to do what I will. He was on today, so it's a tough act to follow.
I'm not on every night.
Yeah, no, I'll